In the shadows of the English greenwood, a name has endured for over 6 centuries: Robin Hood. He is the hero who defined a nation's spirit, a man who stood against the tide of tyranny when all others bowed. The first recorded whispers of his name appear in 1377 in William Langland's The Vision of Piers Plowman. But this Robin wasn't a noble. He was a yeoman, a skilled commoner, a status between a knight and a peasant. As a yeoman, he represented the rising power of the common man, a figure that resonated with the struggles of the age. He was famously dressed in Lincoln green, a color that allowed him to vanish into the emerald heart of the woods. It was the playwright Anthony Munday in 1598 who reimagined Robin as a disinherited nobleman. This shift turned a gritty outlaw tale into a romantic saga of a hero fighting to reclaim his stolen birthright. To understand Robin, one must understand the forest law. The king's deer were sacred, protected by death. To hunt for food in the royal woods was a capital offense. To poach was to be an outlaw. Being an outlaw meant being outside the law's protection. Anyone could kill an outlaw with no penalty. While Sherwood is his most famous home, the early ballads often placed him in the Barnsdale Forest of Yorkshire. Both forests provided a labyrinthine sanctuary where no royal army could easily follow. The legendary Major Oak stands as a silent witness to these tales, estimated to be nearly 1,000 years old. It is said that within its hollow trunk, Robin and his men planned their most daring raids. The merry men were not just friends. They were a disciplined paramilitary band, sometimes numbering over 100. They shared a creed of loyalty, resourcefulness, and a refusal to acknowledge the sheriff's tyranny. Little John was his second in command, a mountain of a man who appeared in the very earliest ballads. Their duel on the bridge is legendary. John won the fight, and in doing so won Robin's lifelong friendship. Even today, a grave in Derbyshire is claimed to be his, marked with an inscription for Robin's lieutenant. Friar Tuck was a later addition, representing the anti-clerical sentiment of the 15th century. Expelled from his monastery for his lack of discipline, he famously fought Robin at a river crossing. Will Scarlet, or Scathalloke, was the band's most skilled swordsman and often the most fashion-conscious. He was a fierce warrior whose fiery spirit and skill with a blade were unmatched in the greenwood. Much, the miller's son, was rescued by Robin after being caught poaching to feed his starving family. He represents the desperation that drove many to follow the outlaw path. Maid Marian entered the legend through May Day festivals, evolving into Robin's noble love interest. She was no damsel in distress. Marian was often depicted as a skilled archer and warrior. The Sheriff of Nottingham was the architect of oppression, a symbol of royal greed. His power came from taxes and the seizure of land from those who could not pay. The sheriff hired Guy of Gisborne, a ruthless bounty hunter, to finally put an end to Robin Hood. Their duels were the most violent in the law, representing a struggle for the very soul of the forest. The archery tournament was a classic trap. The prize, a silver arrow with a golden head. Disguised as a beggar, Robin outshot every royal archer, winning the prize right under the sheriff's nose. In another tale, Robin disguised himself as a potter to enter Nottingham and sell his wares. It was this audacity, the ability to hide in plain sight, that made him a hero of folklore. His most noble act was helping Sir Richard at the Lee, a knight who had lost his lands to a greedy abbot. Robin lent him the £400 needed to save his home, proving that some laws were meant to be broken. The sheriff placed a bounty of £100 on Robin's head, a massive fortune that could buy a city. Yet, the people's loyalty was even greater. No one in Sherwood would betray their champion for gold. While Richard the Lionheart was away, England suffered under Prince John's heavy hand. Robin's loyalty was always to the true king, a core part of the legend's enduring appeal. Richard entered the forest in disguise, wanting to see this prince of outlaws for himself. Impressed by Robin's nobility and skill, the king granted him a royal pardon. History tells us that names like Robehod and Hobahod were common nicknames for outlaws as early as 1225. The legend may not be based on one man, but on the many who fought against injustice. But even legends must end. Robin sought healing at Kirklees Priory, turning to his cousin, the prioress. She betrayed him, using the medieval practice of bloodletting to let him slowly bleed to death. With his last strength, he fired one final arrow from the window of his room. "Bury me where this arrow lands," he told Little John. The archer had fired his last shot. His legacy is carved in stone and written in the hearts of those who dream of a fairer world. The Archer of Sherwood remains the ultimate symbol of the fight against tyranny. In every forest, in every heart that beats for justice, the spirit of Robin Hood lives on. The legend of Sherwood will never die. For as long as there is oppression, there will be a Robin Hood. The Gest of Robin Hood, printed around 1500, remains the most complete record of his early feats. It paints a picture of a man bound by a code of honor, a yeoman whose word was as true as his arrow. The legend also reflected the deep anti-clerical sentiment of the medieval age, where many saw the church as corrupt. Robin's band often targeted these wealthy religious figures, reclaiming the church's wealth for the starving people. When Robin helped Sir Richard at the Lee, it wasn't just a loan, it was a strike against the abbot's greed. Robin's generosity allowed the knight to reclaim his land, a triumph of honor over institutional corruption. In Barnesdale, the legend was even grittier, featuring more violent encounters with the king's men. These early Yorkshire tales focused on the harsh reality of outlaw life in an unforgiving landscape. Maid Marian was more than a love interest. She was a partner in rebellion, often staying in the forest. Her inclusion in the legend brought a sense of partnership and shared sacrifice to the outlaw life. Today, science tells us the major oak is nearly a millennium old, a survivor of ages past. Though it now needs support to stand, it remains the ultimate living monument to the legend. Prince John's taxes weren't just about gold, they were about control, forcing the people into near starvation. Robin Hood's raids were a desperate response to a system that offered no other way to survive. In the 20th century, the legend was immortalized by Hollywood, turning Robin into a cinematic icon. From silent films to modern blockbusters, each generation finds its own Robin Hood. He remains the ultimate symbol of hope, a reminder that one man can change the world. His spirit is found wherever people stand up against injustice and fight for their fellow man. Sherwood Forest may change, and the major oak may age, but the story of the archer is eternal. As long as the greenwood stands, the legend of Robin Hood will live on. The legend of Sherwood will never die, for as long as there is oppression, there will be a Robin Hood.